Hello, welcome back to OConnor Racing. Got an email a little bit ago from evidently one of my YouTube fans, and these YouTube videos, these are working good for me. I hope they're working good for you, but we're pulling between 1,000 and 1,200 views a day, and I know as far as YouTube goes, it's not a lot, but for a one-man operation in here, that certainly gets a phone ringing, and kind of worked on this. This gentleman's name is Paul. He's from Seattle, Washington. This is a 1979 Yamaha YZ250, and he has several of these motors. We actually have two in here right now. We're going to be getting a third one once we get these out, but what we're going to do is just show you what we came up with for some of the parts. The crankshaft definitely took some Yankee ingenuity, and show you how we're going to bring this thing back to life. The cylinder, very old technology, but the cylinder was at max bore, 72 millimeters. And first thing I thought of when I saw the 72 millimeter slug was big bore blaster pistons. They don't work, so don't spend your money trying to make it, because it's not going to happen. We did go ahead. We bought LA Sleeve. Told me this was their last sleeve, so I'm hoping that in the future these engines either they make more sleeves, or the next ones that I get in here don't need it. But we're going to put a sleeve in here. All I have to do, I've got a board for the sleeve right now. Cast iron still inside of the cylinder. We're just going to put our counter bore in, and I'm not. There's other videos that I have that show you how we do this. We're not going to go through every operation. Just more or less just showing you what we're going to do to get this thing back up and running, back on the dirt. Again, I get my sleeves from LA Sleeve. Awesome product. I won't use anybody but LA Sleeve for this stuff. Just really accurate. The other thing that we do is before we start cutting this, we make this. Oh, good, you can see it. We make this port map. And I map that whole cylinder out at stock specs, and then we measure the sleeve. And they don't give you too much to work with, but they give you enough to where you can get everything lined up. So I'm really a big fan of LA Sleeve products. This is a cylinder head, and again, Paul wanted us to go ahead and media blast everything, so certainly we did that. But again, this old technology, you got the spark plug in the back of it, and back then they thought that was going to help to keep the exhaust side of the piston cool. So I'm not going to be doing really any work to this except cleaning it up for him. It's in pretty good shape. He's got a little divot in here, but other than that, the head's in fine shape. The piston part number, it's on the Wiseco website, but it's not in your catalog, and the part number is 234M07000. So those are the components we're going to be working with for the top end, and I'll show you what we found in the cases next. Okay, these are the cases that we're going to be working with. After we got them out of the media blast, we found a crack in this one all the way from here right up to here. So we went ahead and TIG welded this shut. This is going to be fine. It's on the bottom. I'm not going to mess with it too much, but we are going to blend it a little bit more in here, so it's just not such an eyesore and stick out. But we're able to save that case. One thing to take note of, when we welded that, we bolted the cases together to try and prevent any distortion. We checked them out. They're still pretty flat. I am going to go ahead and lap these cases though, but other than that, these cases are fine. We can work with these no problem. Okay, here's where things started getting a little bit tricky. The rod for this crank is no longer available. Again, this is a 1979 Yamaha YZ250. So the people at LA Sleeve were nice enough to provide me with some specs for these Pro X connecting rods. It's in any of their catalogs, and then they sent me some other information as far as pins go. We were able to match these two rods. This is the new rod, Pro X. The part number on the box is 04942. These rods are identical. The only difference is the thickness at this point. This is 16.75 millimeters wide, and the original one is 20 millimeters wide. The other difference is, which that's not a big concern right now, the other problem is this bearing. The pins are different. I'm able to get the right bearing for the outside diameter, but not the inside. This is a 25 millimeter pin, this is a 24 millimeter pin. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the bearing that comes with this rod. You can't get this bearing anywhere, and I think that's why the rod's probably discontinued. We're going to use the new rod with a 24 millimeter pin. Now, of course, the 24 millimeter pin is not going to fit, well, it's going to fit very well in a 25 millimeter hole. So what we did is we opened this hole in the crankshaft up, and I'll show you the setup in a minute, but we opened this hole up an additional 3 millimeters So I've got bushings with a 2mm wall. These aren't finished. We're going to obviously put a chamfer. I made these bushings with a 1/2 thousandths interference fit, and we're going to press the bushing into here, and we're going to weld it all the way around on this side. The crankshaft doesn't know any different. Now it's got a 24mm hole in it. Once we perform that operation, we're going to pin hone the inside. This is a little bit smaller than I want it right now. I want to open it up, but I'm going to, see if I get any distortion off the weld, but I doubt we are going to get a whole lot. But we're going to go ahead and hone that, and then press the pin into the crankshaft and just do a normal crankshaft rebuild. The other difference is the pins. This pin, I can't get this one in this diameter. This is 1mm longer than this. Millimeter longer on each side of the crankshaft. You split the difference, 20 thousandths. I'm really not concerned with it. We're just going to attack his pin, so he's going to get a welded crankshaft when he's done, and we're not worried about that moving around. The other thing, to make up the difference here, I'm just going to double up on the washers, and we've done this many times. It's not going to hurt anything, and that's basically how we're going to get the crankshaft put together on this thing. It's a little bit tricky, but anything can be done. We've had some luck with these YZs. We've had a lot of luck with the MRs, the 175s, 250s. Another problem with the Honda Odysseys. And you vintage guys, if you run into problems like this, by all means, give me a call, and I'll do the footwork and see if we can get this figured out for you. There's some things I like about this rod too, better than the old style. The oiling. It's got double oil holes in the top. This one's got one. Then these just have the single circle on either side, and these are the more modern way that they do it now. So we're not going to have any problems with this rod, but that's how we solved that problem. This is the setup that we used to bore the crankshaft out, the pinholes, and all this is, it's a gear cutter. I've got a good friend of mine, I've been friends with him for a long time, a guy named Henry Graff, pretty extensive aerospace background, but he got himself involved in salvage and machine parts and everything else, and just a great friend. He actually came down, he gave this to me, and dropped it on the floor, and I kind of looked at him and scratching my head. I'm like, what the hell am I ever going to do with this thing? Well, Henry's got a strange way of knowing what we need before we know it, and bringing this stuff down, and once we get used to it and start finding uses for it, we can't do without it. So just one of the many things he's brought down over the past year, and I can't thank him enough. But we found a good use for this. All I did is get the gear head set up. I trimmed my head on my Bridgeport, obviously, and this has to be really close. You're messing with crankshafts here. If you're off at all, you're never going to get a good crankshaft. And we pinned this. We indicated this way, made sure everything was straight. Dropped in the crank web, and indicated that up and down to confirm we were straight. Everything was fine there. And then we used a indicator indicating in tenths, and indicated the hole. Got that right on the money. And then just started boring. I thought it might cut a little harder than it did, but it was very easy to cut, so there's no annealing involved, and I was kind of happy about that. But that's a setup that we used, and I'm sure we could use it on many other things, but that's where we're at right now. I'm going to go ahead and get the sleeve dropped in, match the ports up, and I'll keep you posted as this project moves a little further along. Thanks for watching. ConnorRacing.com.